From the CFI studios in London, Kentucky, welcome to the latest edition of Cardinal Chat, where we discuss everything impacting South Florida, Cardinal Nation, which could be athletics, academics, or fine arts. And I'm joined here today by one of our regulars, Coach Jeff Davis. Coach Davis, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
And Coach Souter is usually with you, but I think he's on assignment today.
He's on an assignment. He's got practice today, so you're stuck with me alone.
As we're taping this week, practice started, technically yesterday, correct?
Yeah, it been yesterday, the first day for both of us. So.
And right, and then on future shows, we will talk and get more into the preview of your season as well as Coach Souter's season. We're looking for big and bright things for both teams this season in the 13th region. But for today, we're going to talk a little bit of band competition and everything band, as our special guest in our next segment will be Mr. Sheldon House. He is the band director of the South Laurel Cardinal Marching Band. But first, we wanted to talk with you, and since you're we'll say how would you say it, the expert on sports.
Easy. I knew you was going there.
Easy, right? So since we didn't really talk about this with our guest last week, Mr. Ryan Nolan. So you're going to be playing a part of AD right here. So why don't you give us a lowdown of some of the fall sports that were going on over here at South Laurel High School? Some good happenings here with some of our programs.
Well, fall sports are coming towards the end of their regular season now. Some teams are already going into state, cross-country teams. The girls, I think they placed second in the region, and their whole team will get to go on to state this coming weekend in Lexington. The boys, I think they're sending three, Will Stanko, Jeremy Steele, and I know I'm missing one. But they're sending three to the state tournament for the cross-country. So, that's fabulous for them. They've been really, really good the last 3 or 4 years, and it's good to see that program. Coach Evans and Coach Kirby has done a great job with them.
All right, excellent. And then some other happenings this fall. Again, the golf program, some big things happening now. Yeah,
they're young, too. The girls program really got a lot of young girls come out this year, first time playing and getting the experience and really building that side of the program up, which is good to see. The boys, they lost Brett Norville last year, who went to the state tournament. This year, Braden Reed actually was in a tie, so they had to go to the playoff for the regional championship, and I think it went to 2 or 3 playoffs holes, and he ended up losing by a stroke in that and finished runner-up in the region and ended up going to the state tournament and playing in Bowling Green. So that's a great accomplishment for him as a junior. So then they have Ashton Garland on the team, and they've got a really good young bunch. They even had I think an 8th grader on the team. So the future's bright for the golf team.
Now, would you call them baby birds or anything like that? Or I don't know.
We don't do that. You might get some emails from some mommies saying, "No."
Okay, well, I was just throwing it out there. It wasn't my suggestion. I was just throwing it out there. But no, these are full-grown birds. How's that?
Well, it's
fly,
exactly
birdie,
right.
fly, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. Now, the soccer programs, the volleyball programs, I believe the seasons have come to the end in those. How did that get along?
Volleyball had a really good year. They ended up losing a heartbreaker in the first round of the district, I think, to Whitley County. I think they ended up 3-1 or something, but every match came right down to the end. But Coach did a great job with them his first year, and their record was really, really good. So especially with the pandemic, they lost a ton of games. Just like a lot of these other sports have lost. Soccer lost a bunch. Coach Markham, I talked to him almost every day, and there was times where both them and volleyball were like a week, and like we don't have any opponent because of the COVID stuff. So boys soccer, I think they lost in the regional championship to Corbin. They had a really good another really good year for them. And I think the girls lost in the first round of the region, if I'm not mistaken. So I could be wrong on that one.
I think above all, again, as we've talked about on previous episodes, I think the fact that they just got to play is really big, especially with the pandemic and everything going on these days. So, in some areas it may not be the results that you're looking for, but I think the fact that you got to compete, it was pretty big.
And you got to look at they were the first sports that came out, and every time they usually start in July, And everything just every 2 weeks it was like, okay, they're going to let us play, and it kept going 2 weeks. And that's hard on the kids. It's hard on the coaches to how are we going to plan and how much conditioning can you do before you just condition them out before the season. So, I feel for them. For winter and spring, we've used them as a guide and kind of adjusted our way. For them, it was a situation where you got to be very careful not to overwork them, but also try to keep them in the best shape. And then you couldn't really do anything as teams. Everything was individual. Could you imagine practicing soccer where you couldn't share a soccer ball or anything? So, and volleyball and all those. So I commend the coaches and the players. It was a rough beginning. They did a great job of keeping everybody together and getting through it. And, our season's going to be the same. We just go one day at a time, and if we play, we play, and we don't, we'll try to find something. So
excellent. Now, one other sport that we hadn't mentioned, but there's a big event coming up for the football team. I believe the homecoming game.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Friday. This is homecoming week at school, and homecoming on Friday, and they did senior night the first game of the year.
A lot of programs did that.
You're going to see that a lot in
a
lot of sports. All the falls did it the first game, because they knew they could get that game in and recognize those seniors where, spring sports last year didn't get a senior night. So a lot of sports programs are doing that early. So they've already had senior night. But it's homecoming, celebrating 50 years of the campus at Laurel County / South Laurel.
Okay.
The school and the gym and the field, all that's 50 years old. So it's a great week of spirit and showing that. And so they'll play Knox Central on Friday night for the last home football game of the year. So everybody, if you can get out and get a voucher and come out and support them.
I don't personally know much about Knox Central, and again, that was just a kid, folks. I actually used to work with Knox Central in that, but I think that ought to be a really good game. Coach Hoskins and his crew coming into town, taking on Coach Burdine's crew.
They did didn't they just beat somebody and put like a ton of points on somebody this last week?
Well, I believe they beat Lincoln County this last Friday, and so 1-1 in their district. They still have to play Wayne County to kind of determine seeding and things like that. But I think everything in that district kind of runs through Corbin. But I think with everything that's going on, they've been very competitive this year. So it ought to be a competitive ball game Friday night.
I keep the change of the game, and I'm always on the other side, and he does a great job. He's a good guy, and I enjoyed the conversation we had at times. But his kids play hard, and they're really talented. So, and our football teams, man, they just banged up, injuries after injuries. We've lost a lot of kids to injuries. Dylan has been with an ankle. I think he's going to be okay. But our football team had a really good game against Whitley, and then some injuries hit there at halftime, the second half. But we're young. We're young up front. We're young in a lot of places, and we lost a lot of veterans at the beginning of the year to injury. Wesley Wright broke his collarbone, so they're continuing to grind and keep playing hard, and good things will come.
Well, and the fact is, again, on the field competing, so hopefully everything works out that the game will be played this week. And if you have a chance, get down there and check it out at Gilliam Field there at South Laurel High School at homecoming. Again, Friday night, I guess, kickoff 7:30?
7:30 kickoff.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you for the kind of the fall update right now. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have our special guest for today's episode, and that'll be Mr. Sheldon House. He is the band director of the South Laurel Cardinal Marching Band, and I guess state champion, two-time champion.
Back to back, and I'm not putting any pressure on him.
No pressure?
It would have been 3 in a row if they didn't cancel it this year.
So,
and that's the thing about the band. People don't really realize what all they go through. I mean, they're at every event. They're still performing at halftime at football games.
Yes.
And you can imagine with COVID, with all the breathing and all this, and the instruments and everybody, and they've been really, I don't want to say shafted. They've really been.
It's a family show, Coach. Now watch it.
I'm trying. They really got put behind more than anybody because they can space out, but they did the instruments and all that stuff. So they really, not be able to defend, and those seniors not getting ready to perform. So I'll let them talk more. But what's coming up this weekend, at least it gives them a chance to perform and compete a little bit. And it's a good thing that they're hosting every year at South Laurel, which is usually a big crowd now with the COVID. And I'll let him tell more about that. But it's just a thing that the hours they put in. I'll leave the gym from practice, and they're still out there in the dark marching, or come in on Saturday morning, and they're still out there. So it's just more than sports. It's more than anything. There are kids performing, and it represents our school, and they've done a fabulous job of representing our school. Just like athletics, they are at the forefront of the school. When they go out around the state, people see South Laurel, and they're representing our school, and kudos to them. They work hard, and they deserve a lot more credit and recognition than they do.
Well, an excellent introduction as we talk with Sheldon House here in our next segment. So again, for Jeff Davis and Steve Black here, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk with Sheldon House and to learn a bit more about the award-winning Cardinal Marching Band here on Cardinal Chat. Welcome back to a Cardinal Chat, and I am joined here right now by the band director of the South Laurel Cardinal Marching Band. I hope I got that correct in the sense of
Yes.
the title and all that. Mr. Sheldon House, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
Awesome. So wanted to just get to, again, this show, this new venture that we're doing, not just athletics, academics, but fine arts as well. And me, myself, being a former band person, this is kind of an interesting topic. And so I'm really interested in talking to you and just kind of picking your brain on a few things within, band and fine arts and things like that. But Sheldon, how did you get your start within, being a band director and things like that, and then eventually leading you to South Laurel High School?
Well, this is my 28th year of teaching.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like 28 years, but time kind of flies when you're having fun.
There you go.
I was a student in Laurel County when it was just Laurel County, and band was such a big, integral part of my life, and it just led me to the career in music. Went to undergraduate school with the idea of either being a computer technologist or a music educator, band director. Took my first music class and suddenly decided I dropped the computer stuff and been doing music ever since. I taught 13 years in Laurel County school system straight out of college, and then moved off and was a band director at Pineville Independent School, and then come back to South Laurel.
Excellent, and we'll talk more about that because during the break we found out we had some common interests and common people that we know. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But just wanted to ask you, your opinion. You're part again. You are part of athletic events. Be it outdoor sports, indoor sports. But your thoughts on music in general and how that complements a sporting event, because I know that they always have those shirts going around, a football game without a band is just a football game, right? And so being a former band person myself, I could appreciate that. But how do you feel that you contribute to those types of events?
Well, we hope that we add a certain atmosphere to the game. I know our kids are always excited to come and play for games. They really enjoy it, and they try to pep up the team and bring a certain energy to the arena. I know I've talked to coaches before, and they said without the band there, it seems kind of lifeless and unenergetic. So it's a highlight for us. Our kids enjoy coming to games. Even when it's cold and rainy, they're still right there. They love it. So we feel like we add something to it. We hope we add something to it. I've always told the kids a couple of things that most people see us perform in a game rather than in a competition or a concert or something like that. So they need to be on their best and good representatives of the school and good ambassadors of the community. But we're also there to perform a task to help the team. If we bring energy, that helps them. And so I think I think we help. At least I hope we help.
Yeah, I would agree. I'll be biased on that. I think it definitely adds to that. Now, Sheldon, you mentioned competition, and one of the things I wanted to ask you that people may not understand is that, you know, you just don't put a show together and just say here it is. There's a lot of work that goes behind it. But what do you do in say your team, your staff? How do you guys go about determining maybe the show that you want to do in a particular year? Because I know a lot of times what you're performing at a ball game, especially a football game, that's what you're doing for competition.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what goes into that, and what's the deciding factors on what you're going to do for a particular season?
Well, that's a good question. You know, there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of planning that gets done behind the scenes. Even though our first competition in a given season won't be until the middle of September traditionally, of course this year is kind of an odd year, but we will start the planning process in January. We'll wrap up our competition season in late October, early November, and we'll take a month or two off and get our brains kind of re-energized, and then we'll start meeting as a staff probably late January, early February. We'll brainstorm ideas. I've got a terrific staff that we couldn't do what we do without them, and we let everybody kind of throw ideas against the board, write down what we all think is a good one, and then we'll start refining the process. And we go through sometimes months of refinement, and this is going to work and that doesn't work. And you'd think when we start actually rehearsing in July that the process would be over, but it's evolving. It's constantly evolving. So we get feedback every competition that we go out during the course of a regular season. Excuse me, and based on the feedback we get from judges and experts and our staff and myself and my assistant director, we start tweaking the program as we go along. So every week we try to do something different. So it's the same general concept through the course of the season, but we're always trying to peak at the right time. It's the same as an athletic team. You know, you don't want to peak before the playoffs. So we try to peak at the right time, which is, you know, the state championship, the finals of state championship.
Now, speaking of state championship, two-time defending champion.
Correct.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Back in my day, they had a class system. Now, is that still a class system, or is that overall champion?
That is still a class system.
Okay.
We are 4A in marching band.
Okay.
So we're the two-time defending state 4A championship.
Now, along those lines, you talk about getting started like in January and February and everything that's going through. And you know, the analogy you'd say to one of the athletic teams, most teams will go through a district tournament, regional tournament, state tournament. What is it like for the bands in the state of Kentucky, and how's the competition process in eventually determining a state champion?
Well, we kind of have a preseason, which we do some performances for the community, some parent preview type shows. Then we start a regular season. The regular season basically is a 6 to 7 week process. And then we have the first round of the playoffs, which is we call the quarterfinals. It's a regional event. And basically, it's the eastern side of the state has their quarterfinals, and the western side of the state has their quarterfinals. And then you qualify for basically what we call the Sweet 16. And then they pare it down from that, and you get into the championship round after that.
Excellent. And again, the band, two-time defending 4A champions. Now, unfortunately, with everything going on this year and with all the COVID, and the pandemic and all that, unfortunately, you're not able to defend your championship. Now, this is an obvious question, but how's the kids taken the situation, and how have you all adapted to that and kind of gone forward?
Well, that's a tremendous question. And when we heard about it, we were in the middle of camp training. In the middle of July, and so we were actually breaking for lunch when the announcement came over. And you know, in today's climate, kids know sometimes before you know.
Yeah.
So it was all over social media, and as you can imagine, kids were devastated. But we took it upon ourselves to try to give the kids as much a sense of a normalcy as possible, even though it wasn't going to be normal. And I've told the kids many times this year that we're striving to do things that are beyond trophies. We're trying to get them to have the experience to strive for excellence even when they don't think it matters. Because we feel like that will teach them to be tremendous individuals and citizens that contributed to society later on.
Excellent.
So it's been tough, but in regard to the bigger goal, I think we're accomplishing that. Kids have responded really well.
Now, I know you're seniors; they don't get a chance to defend that crown one more time. But I think the silver lining in that is that, well, they experienced two championships in a row. So,
Right.
you've got your current program that has experienced that success. Now, again, the success doesn't come overnight. A lot of hard work, but
Right.
just like athletic teams, at this level, I'm sure you've got a nice little feeder system in the school program that it bringing up, future bandmates. And so, could you tell us a little bit about your feeder system?
Right. We have a tremendous middle school program. We have an excellent director, Mr. Michael Woolley is our assistant director. He's also the middle school director. Does an excellent job of providing us with kids who are quality kids, and they've been trained right, and that's makes my job a lot easier when they come to you ready to learn and pick up the ball, so to speak, when you get them. And we have a good working relationship, and we've last year we actually went around and toured all the elementary schools to build up interest, and this year's sixth grade class is one of the biggest we've ever had. So even in spite of the unique circumstances, some kids are online learning and some kids are in person learning, we've still got one of the biggest classes of incoming sixth graders that we've ever had. So we think the future is positive.
Excellent. Yeah, I was going to say that just the way that things are going and the way you explain that. I think, again, future is bright here at South Laurel High School in regards to the marching band. So I want to get you out of here on this. And then during the break, we were talking, just kind of getting to know each other, and had a mutual person that
Yes.
we had talked about. And again, you talked about you had a little stint at Pineville High School. And I thought,
Yes.
let's talk about that connection here for a moment here, and we'll wrap up. So, so again, my band director at Middlesboro High School, Ken Simpson, and you knew Ken and know Ken.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about maybe his influence at your time there at Pineville.
Well, Ken was a big help to me. When I first started in the profession, he was an experienced veteran at the time. Him and Jack Walker, who was the former director of bands here at Laurel County when it was just one school, both those guys were big influences. And when I went to Pineville, Ken was there, and he kind of was always there for a phone call to say, not such a smart idea, or that's a great idea. So there's no substitute for experience, and veterans who are successful, we lean on those. And now that I'm 28 years into it, I'm getting those phone calls on the other side of the coin.
That's
now.
good.
People that I had as student teacher or were student teachers under me are calling me for advice now, which is kind of a neat feeling, but it's hard to imagine you're that old yet, too. So it's a little different situation.
It's a small world that we had and I would not call him Mr. Simpson. I would call him, of
That's
course,
right,
back then. But that was great to know and to share in that. So before we go, as we're taping this, Sheldon, you have a big event coming up this
Right.
weekend. I want to give you a chance to plug it before we go to break.
Sure. This weekend on Saturday is the 36th annual Cardinal Classic Band Competition. I told some of my kids that this has been going on for 36 years in a row, and they were like, their mind was boggled. And then I told them I remember the very first one because I was working it as a student at the time. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing, and that I said that to them, but they kind of looking at me a little differently now. But anyway, we're excited that we still get to host it. Because that was very much in question for a number of weeks, whether we would get to host the event with all the guidelines and protocols you have to go through. But we have 9 bands scheduled to be on campus starting at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. Awards are at 8 o'clock. It's kind of amazing when you think about it, the number of bands that are actually doing what's called a competition band are far less this year, because there's only probably 3 competitions in the eastern half of the state, and about 3 competitions in the western half of the state, and everybody else has kind of folded up shop this year. So there's not a lot of bands to choose from, and most of them are coming our way. And so we have about 3 or 4 state champions in the respective classes coming on campus, which is exciting for our kids to get to hear those groups and see those groups. So, yeah, we're really excited about it.
Excellent. And if you've never been involved in a band competition before, you don't know what you're missing. Some great music, great stuff.
Absolutely.
So if you have a chance, check it out this Saturday over at South Laurel High School. So, Sheldon, thank you for your time here on Cardinal Chat.
I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to take another quick break, and we come back. We'll bring back Coach Davis, and we'll wrap things up here on Cardinal Chat. Welcome back to Cardinal Chat. And again, our final segment before we get started, though. Coach, that was a great conversation I had there with Sheldon House there, the band, and just learning some of the things and some of the background of the band. I really appreciate what they do, and they're just like any athletic team, if you will. They work hard all year round, and it pays off with state championships.
Yeah, and they've got their own competitions, and they've got their own concerts. Plus, then they do football games, and then in basketball, it's like double. They do the boys and girls, and you think at the regional tournaments the last few years, they were at the regional tournament almost every night because both teams progressed. So they put a lot of time and miles on the buses as well.
Yeah.
And we do appreciate. They do bring energy and bring the extra noise, and they're just like the Cardinal Crazies. They get into the game, which is always good.
Well, I want to do one comparison, and we'll wrap up things here on the show. But I talked about I was in the band myself, and when in '83, my freshman year, that is when Middlesboro High School last went to the state tournament in Rupp Arena. And so I remember going there, part of the pep band, and it was a really exciting time. But they put us up in the rafters for our particular game. Nowadays, the band is right there, basically on the court, front row, right with the student section. And again, how far that's come along. But it's great that the band is involved with the pep section as well.
You didn't have any pool then?
Oh no, I was just new coming back into the state, I guess, or whatever. But but again, those were good times. The last time Middlesboro went back, so maybe both teams can go to the state this year, Coach. You and Coach Souter, and we get to experience that again with Sheldon and in his band, and maybe get a chance to play as everything plays out. So again, so enough about that. Let's go ahead and just kind of wrap up a few things now. I would be remiss that if I not recognize the sponsors. We talked about our sponsors for this new venture last week, Smith Global LLC. And again, you can contact Scott Smith at 606-231-6094. He has a lot of great properties here in London and in Tennessee as well. And then also, if you're looking for legal assistance, you can none other than Morgan Collins, Yeast and Sawyer. They're Kentucky Courage Attorneys at Law, and they have offices in Lexington, London, and Somerset. Again, thank you to those sponsors, or I'd like to say partners, to this new venture. But anything new on the sponsorship or partner front, Coach?
No, we've actually had some inquiries, and please contact us, and we'll do whatever we can. A lot of people are interested. The media guide's going really well, the scores table, and the deadline's going to be mid to end of November on both of those, especially the media guide. But on this adventure and some of the streaming stuff that are coming forward in the next probably the next month, we'll have more information on that, where you can sponsor some stuff. Just contact us. We've got a lot going on, and a lot, especially during these times where attendance and tickets are going to be hard to get and get to the games. We want to make sure we get everybody be able to see the games and everything.
All right. Again, if you're interested in being a partner of this new venture, just contact South Laurel High School, and they'll get you in touch with the right people and get all the information that you need. And again, one thing we talked about in our last broadcast, again, suggestions for a title of this particular venture. We're using Cardinal Chat as a working title.
Les Dixon didn't like.
Well, Les Dixon. Now, now I heard you threw me under the bus after this taping last time. That's what Les said. I don't know now.
See, Les likes to get in between us and tries
there
to
we
stir
go.
things up.
So, all right. Well, we'll have to have him on the show one time and maybe work all of that out. How's that?
I would like to get him on the show. I've got some questions to ask. Like, I've talked to some area coaches, and I've talked to some area parents. They got some questions that, instead of typing it on the Facebook page, they would really like to hear it from his voice.
So we'll see if we can work on it.
I don't know, something about ranking, something about I don't know. I've got the questions on my email.
He does a great job, and the people involved in that do a great job. And I'm not just saying that, Coach. He
does.
He does a great job. But we'd love to have him on because he's a wealth of knowledge, especially here in the 13th region.
Just like they do in WWE. Let's lay down the challenge. Let's contact Steve. We'll make it happen.
Wow.
We'll get you on here.
Okay.
A whole show
wow.
with Les Dixon.
Sounds good. Now, a couple of others. Now, Les did come up with the Cardinal's Nest, which does sound pretty good.
That's a thing. That's not like a, you know what I'm saying? That's more of a thing. That would be like the Cardinal's Nest is kind of like our gym. You said this is a talk show.
Well, maybe that's something we could talk about, right? And then Cardinal Echoes from Coach Souter. That's a kind of.
Now that was kind of nice.
Okay.
I kind of like that one because the history brings back the school song. And everything. I like it.
All right, very good. So that's something we look at. Again, we've talked about maybe kind of having a contest, and we're still formulating that. And I think it would be nice to kind of see what everybody out there would like to maybe.
Every time we come up with a good one, somebody steals it, like First Take and
Oh.
Get Up and
PTI or something like that? Okay.
Undisputed. I mean, they all take ours. I mean.
Well, it is, you steal from the best, right?
We need to get a hold of Collins and Houston, Morgan, all them to make sure we get our
there you go. See,
patent before we say
there
it.
You go. All right, very good. So again, before we go, a couple previews over the next couple of segments or episodes. We're going to talk to you more, Coach, about your team and what's coming up this year. Same thing with Coach Souter and the girls basketball team as well, and other things happening here over the next few weeks. So just keep it in tune to your different social media outlets for Cardinal Chat. Any last words you want to say, Coach, before we wrap up this particular edition?
No, I appreciate you, and I appreciate Shane and taking time in the afternoon, and CFI here for giving us a chance to do this and this adventure. And like we say, it's just not for us, it's for our whole school and our whole community, and band, as you saw today, and we'll have more coming down, and maybe we'll get Shane on here and explain all behind the scenes and everything what it takes, because it takes a long time to get all this set up. I know it don't sound like for real professionals like us, but it's a lot of time.
He makes the real magic happen. The executive producer of Cardinal Chat, Shane Smith.
It is, and the good thing about it, kids are taking this video and breaking it down, and so they're getting some experience out of it.
Excellent. Too. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this edition of Cardinal Chat. And for Sheldon House, band director of South Florida High School, along with Coach Davis and executive producer, I like that, executive producer, Shane Smith, I'm your host, Steve Black, and tune in to us for the next edition of Cardinal Chat.